it's Tonka Joey again, and first of all, I just have to thank you all 150,000 of you. Thank you so much for subscribing. It's really crazy that we've hit this milestone together, and I just wanted to celebrate that. And part of how I'm celebrating is I left it up to you guys to create the material for this video. I asked you to share your fandom hot takes or positivity, just whatever's on your mind with fandoms right now, and I would record it for this video. Just reading your comments and maybe reacting a little bit to a few of them, sharing my own perspectives. The good and bad news is that you guys left a lot of comments, like over 400, and I cannot read that many in one video. So I just have about the first 55 or so comments that I saw. I didn't pick and choose, I didn't reorder them or anything. And, maybe I'll make a part 2 with more of those comments. But for now, let's just jump into this first selection of your fandom thoughts. I strongly believe that we should normalize blocking people when you hate their fandom takes instead of harassing them. I completely agree. I think there are very few cases where trying to have an argument with someone who disagrees with you about that type of thing is actually going to do any good for either of you. You get to, curate your own online experience. You get to follow who you like, and you also get to block who you don't like. It doesn't have to be some big personal thing to block someone. If you just don't want to see them keep talking about something the way you don't like, block them. You will feel so much lighter moving forward. You're never too old to start writing fanfic. The joy of writing fanfic as an established adult is that I can just live in the joy of creatively smashing my blurbos together without having any self-esteem depend on whether people like what I'm putting out. Not that I don't appreciate the wonderful comments I do get. I love my commenters. But I can also have a fic that's been languishing at 8 hits while the hits on my other works keep climbing, without being discouraged about it. I genuinely love how the Uma Musume fandom loves and supports the real horses the girls are based on, be it the ones who are still alive or donating for memorials of the ones that have passed and keeping their memory alive. Among the usual fandom discourse, it's always great to see when people show care. It is really beautiful when a fandom can rally together behind a cause. It's nice to see fiction inspire kindness and charity in people. Hot take: it's okay to be distant from certain fandoms and enjoy media on your own or in close circles. I totally agree. I can love something and not interact in any fandom space for it at all, or just occasionally dabble here and there because maybe a lot of the people in the fandom annoy me, but there's still good content to find. I don't need to force myself into a space just because I like something. But when I do like something, and I also like the fandom, that's really great too. There is a weird phenomena where fandoms embody the exact opposite tone of the source material. Horror movies and true crime, bubbly and optimistic. Kids' cartoons and games, violently apprehensive. To get a bit psychological, I see it as people getting their fill of one particular emotion when experiencing their media of choice, and their brain overcorrects their normal behavior to achieve equilibrium. But that could be an extremely simplified explanation and missing other context. I love being in a tiny corner of a huge fandom where there's just 5 of us freaks who are the only people who care about a specific minor character. In my case, it's Quirrell from Harry Potter. Being into indie game fandoms is so strange, because some of the time it feels like it's weird when someone doesn't know about your fandom in some capacity, and other times you can fit the entire fandom on a school bus. Regardless of how popular the fandom is online, though, you'll never find a person outside of a convention who shares your interest. I hate it when characters get antagonized for having depth. Like, literally, I can think of several examples of characters in my fandoms who are just very flawed characters who have reasons to act the way they do, and yet the fandom still hates on them. People can't understand the difference between being a bad person and simply being flawed. Sometimes I think, oh, how good it would be to read a fic about characters A and B with tropes X and Y, and after some time, I find the exact fic I wanted. I absolutely love when this stuff happens. Long live the good old fandom hive mind. I hate that the 1% of people in most fandoms who are mentally deranged are the only side that the general population sees. It's just so frustrating when, after a fandom grows past a certain point, the rational-minded people stop engaging with the content, as the people who make the fandom their entire personality ruin it for everyone else. I do think in this kind of scenario, it's mostly just that the people who are most crazy and intense are the ones who are loudest, so obviously you're gonna tend to see them and remember them more than the casual fans. So yeah, like you said, it's just 1% of people, but when one person is talking a lot more than other people, it makes it feel like they're taking up more space than they are. I feel like nowadays fandoms have this weird feeling of a time limit, where if you're not into something right when it's trending, it suddenly gets treated like old news or irrelevant quickly after the main hype has died. Back in the day, fandoms could survive indefinitely after a series ended because fan creations and discussions kept them alive. Now it feels like if you don't jump on the recent bandwagons immediately, you've missed the train completely, and everyone has just stopped engaging and moved on to the next new popular thing. Meanwhile, I still have fandoms from over 10 years ago that I'm still actively making ideas and content for because I genuinely still love them. I love how some fandoms last so long that they're passed down a generation. It's so wholesome. Hot take, or maybe this is normal, I don't know. Making fandoms out of your own characters is really fun and should be normalized. Like, I quote my own characters all the time. I treat them like media I enjoy, and I make fan stuff. You can catch me saying, I am a vertical entity. I can navigate the tile. And, Mike, where the heck are you? I can't get the Puritan off the fridge. So just treat your original characters like a fandom. I love that. You know those like incorrect quote blogs on Tumblr? I've done that kind of thing with my original characters. They are a fandom in my mind, and I'm the only fan, but that is okay. I love when people come together in a fandom to create something. Zines, animations, etc. I recently saw an AU getting built. It's so fun to see everyone sharing and adding ideas. Oh, I do adore collaborative fandom efforts. Like, when I was a teenager, I used to always watch, they were called MEPs, multi-editor projects, I believe, on YouTube. People editing different fandoms to a song, and each person would have a different section for the video. Or zines, there's so many great zines to find out there. Or like when groups of cosplayers come together, it's just so fun to see. Community. That's what fandom should be about. It should be an unspoken rule that fandom is an AI-free space. Fan artists and fanfic writers are the backbone of fandom, and using AI to make your favorite characters kiss or worse is gross and disrespectful not only to the actors, but towards other people in the fandom. The whole point of fandom is to create community and creativity, and AI is the antithesis of that. My hot take is that you have got to re-engage with the source material every once in a while. If you watch or read or play it once, and then every other interaction is through fandom, characters, plotlines, and themes will get distorted like a mirror reflection of another mirror. Very true, I endorse this. It's not like I see other people having a problem where things get distorted, but just in my personal experience, I've got a lot of fanfiction ideas right now, and I'm like, I can't write them yet because I've got to like replay this video game to make sure I'm getting it right. I want to portray the lore and the characters accurately, and my years of distance are probably affecting it, and I gotta get that refresher. I think non-romantic self-shipping should be more normalized. Sometimes you want a character to be your child, parent, or even just your friend. I don't see enough people doing this or talking about it, and I think it's a shame that most people immediately assume self-shipping is romantic. I love it when fandoms have creative ship names. We need less start of one name, end of another name, and more words or phrases related to the characters. Yes, please, more of these. Yes, please, more of these. One thing that interests me about fandoms is the odd way fandoms connect. Like, if you're in a specific fandom, there's a high likelihood you're in some other ones. Not necessarily because the fandoms are similar. I literally got into Danganronpa because of Omori and the amount of Omori fans I saw who were also into Danganronpa. And it always interested me how these two might have connected, because they aren't exactly similar in terms of story or genre. And as I joined more fandoms, I realized how many were common for people from specific fandoms to be in. I saw even more examples of this. Like, if you're a fan of a certain thing, there's a high chance you also like this other thing. It's really interesting. I wish that some people would realize that it's okay for someone to like fanfics where the characters portrayed are wildly mischaracterized and unlike their canon selves. That's part of what makes reading fanfic fun. It's fiction for fans. You can do whatever you want, and it doesn't matter if it's not how they would act in the canon, because that's the fun of writing for yourself and an audience. You are able to do whatever you want with these characters, and someone will at least enjoy it, even if it's just the writer. So it's okay to be different from the canon at times and to deviate from it, because it makes the story fun for some readers, even if it's not everyone's cup of tea. My biggest piece of advice, not just for creators and fandoms, but for creatives in general: create for yourself first and ignore the people giving you crap about it. If you give the entitled trolls ammunition, they'll use it to turn you into Swiss cheese. Interact with the people who give compliments and properly constructive criticism. Don't be afraid to enforce your boundaries, and ignore or block people who try to harass you for not being a carbon copy of themselves. Life is too short to be worried about John Doe 2012 on Twitter trying to accuse you of being a horrible person because your interpretation of a character doesn't line up with theirs. Don't let people scare you out of your love of creating. I like making modern happy AUs for fandoms whose source material is tragedy, because I need my fave characters happy, damn it. Recently, Unstable is the one I'm writing and making happy fanfics about. This is kind of where I'm at right now. I've got a lot of ideas right now, and it's just kind of like, after the horrors, these two characters happen to meet and form a happy friendship that heals all those old wounds. It's so nice. I think that people should care less about canon as a whole when discussing fandom requirements. I'm going to side with every single fanfic writer who writes an extremely out-of-character version of a fandom fave way before I'm going to side with anyone who goes, you can't write that because this is canon. I think everyone should get more into multi-shipping and having multiple contradictory headcanons about the same characters. It opens up so much more fun, in my opinion, than being really married to one relationship and taking the view of, this is the only right answer. I actively read fanfiction for the same character in 2 FF ships, 2 FM ships, and an FFM relationship, and have written fic for one each of the FF and FM pairings, as well as fic where she's aromantic and has no relationship. Sometimes when I write FF fic with her, she's bi, and sometimes she's a lesbian. I'm not trying to make any sort of coherent universe with my fics. Most of them are AU settings anyway. So I just do whatever I want, and it's so fun. All headcanons exist simultaneously, like Schrodinger's cat, until I collapse the waveform by observing it, writing a fic. I do think it's really fun to have multiple interpretations of a character, of different relationships they could be in, different sexualities they could have, stuff like that. You really don't have to just, like they said, like stay married to one headcanon. There can be so many different interpretations, and that's fun. People in fandoms need to have more fun and whimsy. All I feel I see is doom and gloom about discourse and not enough fun, silly stuff. Fandom is meant to be fun, be joyous, be whimsical. 100%. Yes, thank you for saying it. The amount of joy I get when I see two fandoms I'm in, or just things I like, get combined into one thing is amazing. For example, I saw a Sonic animation set to a Junior Senior song, or fan art of American Girl characters as ponies. One way I keep writing fanfic without my doubt of its quality consuming me is remembering that self-critique is always worse than it actually is. If I think it's a 3 out of 10, then it has to at least be a 6 out of 10. And that's more than half, so good enough. The Amazing Digital Circus fandom isn't as bad as people say, it's just bigger. There are going to be loud, annoying assholes in any fandom, and the Amazing Digital Circus is big, so it's got a couple more. It's not the worst fandom ever, or everything wrong with fandom culture. It's literally just large. I find the idea of a fandom ruining a piece of media to be ridiculous, because that can only be an issue if you're terminally online. I love how safe I feel when I'm around people who are in the same fandom as me in real life. For some reason, my usual intense social anxiety just disappears. I went to see The Guy Who Didn't Like Musicals in London last week, and just the feeling of being around and talking to other people in the Team Star Kid fandom has made it one of the happiest moments of my life. A fandom is only dead when 0 people are creating art or fic or meta about a piece of media. If you and your friend are the only ones partaking in a fandom, the fandom is alive. It's honestly weird how fandoms have gotten so anti-fun recently. Like, yes, fandoms have always fought over silly stuff, but I feel like recently people have just been so genuinely mean for no reason, especially on TikTok. You could do literally anything and get hate or get called corny. I've seen people hate on ships purely because they aren't canon. I've seen people get hate for non-harmful headcanons. I've seen people get hate for literally everything. Fandoms are supposed to be free and fun. Why are we trying to take that away? Why are we sending death threats to people who haven't even done anything harmful but are just having fun? It's just super frustrating. I have a preference for fanfics that focus on a fandom's world instead of a fandom's characters. World building and showing places that I've already seen from a different perspective is so nice. People can hate on original characters all they want, but abandoning pre-established canon characters in favor of a new cast that goes through the same environment is really fun. As a fan of a widely hated ship in my fandom, it's very demoralizing. Like, people are in the tag on Tumblr posting hate, and a lot of fics on AO3 they're tagged in are just one-sided, which is fine, but I'm still a little bitter about it. Plus, a lot of fics that don't even focus on these two actively hate on the idea of them getting together, even in subtext. I understand why people don't like the ship, but I just get a little sad because I care about it a lot. It's interesting how the platform a fandom is on can change the experience so drastically. For the Stormlight Archive fandom, the Reddit fandom is generally insufferable. They can at times be funny, but they heavily flatten the characters. Tumblr is the place to go for good Doyleist analysis. The Tumblr takes on the characters and world are so interesting. And the official Discord server is the place to go for theory crafting and Watsonian analysis of mechanics of the magic system, but they don't do as much analysis of the themes or characters. I'd be interested to know if this is the case for other fandoms. We need to bring back cringe fandom culture. AO3 feels very professional, which is fair and I love it, but we need more bad writing. Since Wattpad became monetized, there is no more safe space for people to create bad art or otherwise hone those skills. We need a Wattpad equivalent to keep the balance. And I miss the citrus scale. Give me back lemons and limes. And shout out to the not safe for work artists who make uncomfortable or questionable art. Whether that's traditional art or writing, you offer yourselves up for the entire world to judge or even direct hate at. People will always hate, but by directing their hate at you, it allows for other things to be acceptable. Inappropriate use of a wound is the reason water sports can be ignored by the masses, for example. You're a martyr, and I cannot express my admiration for that enough. Writing fanfiction is something I decided to start doing after I found you, and it's definitely a lot more confusing than I thought. My first idea was to retell a series from alternate perspectives, but to do that, I have to learn to write fiction as I go, and then figure out where I would like to diverge from canon down the road, then rewrite to fit my plot and start putting it out in public for people to see. It hasn't come together, but the idea has stuck with me for years, so I have to do it, and I can't figure out how to approach other ideas until I get a handle on the big one. Well, that is amazing to hear that potentially my videos helped inspire you to start writing fanfiction yourself, and I really wish you all the best with figuring out your fic. It sounds really cool. I like that retelling from different perspectives thing. So yeah, that's awesome. Good luck. I always get really mad when people say that fan art isn't real art. Whether it be art critics or art teachers or just miserable people online, I hear this sentiment all the dang time. Heck, I even wrote an essay about this topic, proving my point by pointing out the elements of art and principles of design in various pieces of fan art. It also peeves me off when art snobs say this, as a lot of famous Renaissance art was just fan art of the Bible or various Greek and Roman gods. I wish more people outside of fandom spheres could ease the stigma that comes with making and sharing fan art. As a Hollow Knight fan, it still feels weird to me that Silksong actually released. Before, it was almost hard not to be aware of us, but now we're just another fandom. To be perfectly honest, I kinda miss waiting for Silksong. It brought a strange sense of community that's just not there anymore. I feel like small fandoms tend to be the healthiest. There's an indie animated series here on YouTube called Deep Space Discounts, which I highly recommend. It's half an hour total and so worth your time. There aren't a lot of people in the fandom, but that means I've barely run into any discourse and infighting. I really wish my other fandoms were this healthy. Lukewarm take, I hope, but OCs are so fun. I genuinely do not understand how some people get so upset over people making OCs, even the super cringe or Mary Sue ones. The character ain't canon, it's not actually affecting the media, so why care so much? Go wild, dude! Make a self-insert, make an OCX canon, give that OC some random OP power, give them some weird crazy backstory even if it makes no sense and has zero cohesion. Fandoms are a place for fun and creativity, and that should never change. I feel like fandoms tend to forget that the creators of their favorite stories are people, and not just icons on the screen they can point at and berate because they don't like the path X character took in the story. I know the fandom that's currently on blast for this is the Amazing Digital Circuses fandom, but it's been an issue for ages. Yeah, this is always so tragic when creators and actors get horribly attacked online just because people don't like something in a story. Like, I always think back to when Laura Bailey said that people were sending death threats to her child because they didn't like her character in a video game. And, like, I really don't understand how people can be so cruel and not see these people as people and get so horribly angry and worked up over a piece of fiction. Discovering the concept of multi-shipping and polyamory genuinely changed my life as a shipper, and if I see something I don't like, I don't make a fuss and scroll and or block. Not everything is tailored to me, and that is okay. That's what my beloved AO3 and other social media filters and tags are there for. Now that's a great healthy attitude. I love stumbling upon a new fandom that I'd never even heard of before, only to realize that it's legitimately huge. I think it's wonderful that it's still possible to find such new things. Just the feeling of, oh my goodness, if not for these specific circumstances, I would never have known. What a gift it is that there's so many people out there loving things deeply. I think it's cool when fandoms branch out into sub-fandoms, so to speak. Like, a specific part of the fandom gets so big it becomes its own teeny tiny fandom. The biggest example of this that comes to mind for me is the Sonic fandom, in which Sonic.exe and other horror fan content have gotten so huge it has its own sub-fandom. This happens to quite a lot of fandoms, though mainly video games due to those usually having more spin-offs and such than other media, and I think it's neat. I'm in the Battle for Dream Island fandom, and I have to say that I really like how the show was started by 2 middle schoolers, and now it's a fairly huge thing. They started doing regular theater releases in October of last year for their episodes, and that's really cool. Yes, your age does not define the worth of your ideas and your creativity. That's definitely a theme right now, people talking about the Backrooms movie, being directed by someone quite young, and a friend of mine was telling me about a movie he watched and he thought it was really awesome and impressive, and the director is our age. So I think it's great that we're in an era where we can see so many inspiring people who are younger and therefore, relatable to younger people. You don't need to be all grown up and fancy to make something worthwhile. Sometimes I like to read fics of media I've never even seen, nor am I interested in seeing the original media. I don't think knowing the source material cover to cover is a requirement to step into fandom spaces in general, and even make your own content. Like, as long as you're not hurting anyone and you're being respectful, there's genuinely no issues. Funny story, I did this briefly with a few fics, then got into the media later down the line, and I didn't see the correlation at all until I saw a specific character on screen. I've gotten to the point in my life where I just want to enjoy stuff without getting involved in the fandom drama. Just let me squee over my JoJo's instead of getting dragged into another shipping war or complaint that something is ruining the franchise forever. Thanks. I really hate how people get mad if other people see a character in a different way than they do. If someone thinks this character might really love this certain TV show or book or food or whatever, but someone else thinks they might hate it, why argue? It really doesn't affect you if someone else has different headcanons or ways of seeing a character than you. Very true, thank you for saying it. There's a lot of characters and I feel like I see them in a slightly different way than a lot of other people in the fandom do, but that doesn't make my interpretation or their interpretations any less valid. We all just have our different headcanons, and they're all equally valid. I'm not mad at theirs, and they don't need to be mad at mine. We can all just chill. Kind of a funny story, I've been writing a long fic for a small fandom for a couple months now. The fandom stems from a visual novel, and while I was writing about and replaying one route, I ignored and didn't play one of the routes that reveals the most lore, in particular about one major character that I wrote out of character for months, unintentionally. I feel so bad, ugh. Now I have to go back and write 35,000 words, but it should be easy. Moral of the story, explore all routes, chat. Don't have your last playthrough be of that at 1 a.m. 3 months ago. There is going to be weird or gross people in all fandoms, so I think we should stop saying, I would watch that show or read that book or read that manga. You get the point. But the fandom is just too bad. An honest artist's work should be appreciated no matter what the fandom does or has done. That's assuming the work wasn't already gross and icky. Kinda a hot take, closer to lukewarm I feel, but I think more people should be making and sharing their fandom OCs and characters more. I absolutely love seeing people insert their own characters into the world and how they interact with fandom characters. It's amazing. It's a whole new character for the viewer and reader to get to know while still being in a familiar setting. Maybe it's because Stardew Valley was one of my first fandoms where that's pretty common, but I'll never get why people don't like other people's OCs. I really do love to see an OC when I stumble across them. Like with Stardew Valley, I've definitely had the same fan artist come across my feed randomly, months in between, but I still remember, oh yeah, hey, this is that Stardew Valley OC that I've seen before. Oh, this is what he's up to now. And stuff like that. And it's like, don't doubt the power of your original character, because like, even someone who doesn't follow you can still remember your character and find them memorable. I guess that was a kind of redundant sentence, but yeah, make that OC, share that OC. Someone might really get attached to them. I really want to take a moment for all the independent fandoms popping up recently. The sense of community you get when you talk with and get advice from a fellow creator is crazy. It's been inspiring me to continue my work on my own indie game. That sounds awesome, and I wish you all the best with your indie game. I miss Wattpad and DeviantArt. Objectively, I know an extremely monetized platform like Wattpad is never a good place for fanfiction, but these sites felt like safe places for beginners to be cringe. Despite everyone seemingly deciding cringe is dead, there's still no longer any really safe place to be a beginner and still get positive comments from invested people on every chapter of your terrible fic or fan comic. Maybe it's because I'm an adult now, but it feels like shitty fandom art and writing by tweens is becoming a dying species. I know many people look back on their old Wattpad fics and cringe bad, and maybe it was bad, but I still think back fondly to reading stories I know their creators probably would or have deleted because they thought it was bad. Your bad Wattpad fic was possibly a part of someone's childhood, and I know I can't be the only one who looks back with extreme nostalgia and not with cringe, and also who actually genuinely enjoys things in fandom that people deem cringe. I think we're suppressing part of the ecosystem by making beginners and younger members feel so unwelcome. I love your bad art and bad fanfiction and weird OCs and out-of-character ex-reader fics, and not in an ironic way, and whether it's my taste or not. My favorite part about the Batman fandom is the POV you live in Gotham TikToks. They're super funny and really help immerse me into the fandom, and it has also inspired several OCs of mine. I just want to know why so many teen girls in fandom love terminal illness angst. I guess it's just the tragedy. It's something very tragic that can happen to people that can be applied to like basically any character. Yeah, it's like the tragedy and maybe like being unique. Maybe the fantasy of being cared for. I'm sick of people who think that you either love everything about the source or you despise it. Whenever I or another person in my fandom give constructive criticism or feedback on something, people get mad and are all like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. But I still like it? Maybe there are some things I would have done differently, but I still like what ended up happening, or I wouldn't be in the fandom anymore. At the same time, there are some people who are clearly miserable in the fandom and complain about everything, yet instead of letting go, they just make their opinion the creator's problem. And that's not okay. I'm just saying, there are allowed to be certain things you don't like about something, even if that thing is your special interest of 3 years. I've only recently gotten into more serious, non-canon shipping, which I've learned can be fun, but a little stressful. Going to the internet to find fan art will sometimes lead me to see a post saying, "It's dumb to ship name, so here's art for the canon ship." And that just feels unnecessary. On top of that, I've recently discovered my passion for multi-shipping, especially in the DCU. There are way too many cute couples for me not to consider all of them as possibilities, even if comic or movie writers will never have Superbat in their story. Also, thanks Joey for the videos. Love your work. And I love your comment. Thank you so much for commenting and watching. That's very nice of you. And I think that's a good place to end it right now. Hopefully I will get around to a part 2 and include more of your comments, because like I said, there were way more than I could fit in one video. And I really appreciate so many of you commenting and sharing your great fandom thoughts. There's some really great perspectives in this video, and I hope everyone in the comments can agree. And before I go, I must thank my Patreon members, my little ruse. Nebulatic Vexen, Dunka42, John Huang, Laser Scorpio, Mintara, Somnophobic Danny, Savage Otters, Falsey, Kestrel, Chickenborn Canid, Angie Ender, Marpsk, Sky Cow, and Yellow Mochi Cat. Thank you so much for your extra support on Patreon. It means the world to me. Hope you guys are doing well, and I will have some sort of behind the scenes content on Patreon for this video coming up as soon as I can create it. So I hope you'll look forward to that. And of course, thank you to my YouTube channel members, my Mini Ruse, Foxstar Killer, Rainy Cant, Alyssa North 24, Siggy, Those Midnight Daydreams, and Moonlight. Thank you so much for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be a part of my YouTube channel. You're all very lovely, and I'm always glad to see you around. Thanks for being here. And thank you to everyone else for watching and for commenting and just for, you know, subscribing. If you're part of the 150,000, that's really amazing. Crazy to think that there are more people subscribed to me than live in my town. That's just wild. And thank you for being here with me through these years. I'm glad I get to help entertain you and hopefully share some thought-provoking things sometimes. And of course, just a lot of laughs. I love making silly videos, so thank you for being here with me. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.